to serve and protect my country.
We have
I've just been trying to email one of the companies that I read for, and I'm getting a response saying this is not a valid address. And I email these people all the time, so I've got some glitch going on with my email. I'm going to have to try to figure out, but it's a bit disconcerting when you suddenly get a message saying this isn't a valid email address.
I was texting a producer that I met recently, and he gave me his information, and I said, the best way for me to interact is not through email, but just text back and forth. And so he called me, and so anyway, I started texting him, and he had gotten right back to me on something, or called me right back, and well, I might as well talk about it a little bit. I had a executive from Netflix call my agents and say he was interested in having a meeting with me, which is, used to happen to me when I was younger quite a bit, but hasn't happened to me in quite a while. And he's a big executive, and he's made a number of movies and big movies.
Well, he's been with Netflix for what, 6 years now?
Yeah, I don't want to get too much into who exactly he is, Jim,
But he's been there for a while.
But he's 6 or 8 years, and
so he's got some record.
Yeah, and he's worked with some very, very good people. So, but I didn't know that. I thought, maybe he wanted to meet me. He might, have me in mind for a job. So I went to.
It was pretty exciting. I'll just jump in here and go like, this big producer reached out. Oh, want to set up a meeting with Michael. Oh, okay. What could this be about? Oh, he's made what movies? A lot of big movies
with a lot of great people.
A lot of just some of the biggest movies. And I go, okay, this is I'm gonna get some project in the works here and continue your story.
Yeah. And so, I was excited to a certain extent, and I went out to meet him, and we had lunch middle to late last week, and I sat down, and he was just all about the podcast. Just all about the podcast.
How many scripts did he bring with him for you to read? How many scripts did you walk out of that meeting with?
There wasn't too much of Michael. I had this in mind for you and that in mind for you. And
we'd love to work with you, Michael. We're dying to find a project we can do together. You didn't hear that, did you?
No. There wasn't much of that. But he was a really great guy, and I ended up asking him because of his position. I thought he'd be actually it was Kalen. I was driving home and Kalen called, and I called Kalen. I said, this meeting went great. I spent, usually when you sit down for lunch, you spend an hour and a half maybe with somebody. We were there for 2 hours, and just, it was like being on the podcast. It was just like cool. talking to the podcast. Kalen said, because I started talking to Kalen about who he was, and Kalen said, well, did you ask him to come on the podcast? I was like, fuck, no.
Well, he's a big producer. He set up this meeting just because he loves our podcast and watches every episode.
Yeah.
And you're telling me, I go, great. Well, when's he coming on? Did you ask him? And you were like,
no.
Fuck.
Never thought of it. Yeah.
Why didn't you ask him to come on the podcast?
Yeah. And so I said, because I'm an idiot. How about that? Does that help? Does that work for you? So I immediately then called him or texted him, and I had forgotten how I communicated with him, but asked him. I wanted to tell him how much that I enjoyed lunch, and he actually, I think, got back to my agents and said he, was interested in finding something for me. But but I had a great time with him, and I asked him to come on, and he said that he would love to come on, but he needed to, he had to run it through Netflix, kind of like the way that you, Adam, had to go through William Morris.
Yeah.
And have William Morris kind of said, okay, Adam, you can go out there, but, we want to take a look. Same thing, and Jim Cameron was the same way. It's like, all right, go do the interview, but we want to see the interview, and if there's something in it that we don't feel comfortable with, we want to, and these, Netflix, my God, what a huge
Humongous. Yeah.
company.
Humongous among us.
I mean, we haven't. It's been a long time since we've done an episode, just the three of us, where we're just talking. We haven't even gotten into Netflix buying Warner Brothers. And
Well,
that whole thing too.
rigmarole. Yeah.
I mean, Netflix is huge now. If this deal happens, it's going to be. I mean, they're going to be the biggest company, like in entertainment company in the world.
well, they're already
Pretty close.
pretty close. I mean, I was talking to Jim about Disney and them, and I think it's only the theme parks that really. I think that there's more content that comes out of Netflix. Netflix, if I'm not mistaken, last year has 650 or 60 new content on their platform, and this includes stuff that's overseas, stuff that's been acquired, stuff they've made,
In-house produced.
television,
Yep.
Stuff that they've produced, stuff that they've bought, and
Reruns of old stuff. They bought Breaking Bad not long ago to air.
well, yeah, there you go. I mean, they seem to be a company that, when somebody calls and says, "Oh, I've got a meeting for you," or my agent's calling and say, "I got a meeting for you with an executive who's produced, 15 movies." For Netflix, and he wants to meet you. I'm like, well, that sounds pretty good to me. And but we sat and we really talked, and he knew the podcast really well, and he hadn't seen all the podcasts. I think that he missed out on some of the Tombstone stuff. I was talking to him about some of the Tombstone stuff, and but he was just a joy, and you get people like you, Jim, like me, Kaylin, you're the same way. We just love movies, and we love talking about them. We love talking about the ones that we like. We love talking about the ones that we don't like. And so I asked him to come on the show. He's going to go through Netflix. I have a feeling Netflix will say...
well, before you go into that, you were telling me today that you said the preferred method to get in touch with them was texting.
Yes.
How did that go for you? How did that turn out?
All right. Well, this is Jennifer can tell you, my son can tell you, all my children can tell you. This is typical of Michael Biehn. So I wanted to reach out and mention to him that I was going to mention his name on this morning's podcast, and I just thought, like, I just wanted to let you know that I was going to do this, and if that's okay with you, and because I knew that he still had to check with Netflix, and I didn't hear anything back from him, and it was like 6-8 hours went by, and I thought, maybe he's whatever, and that was on Saturday, and then Sunday, I gave him one last text. I got my phone here. Just very politely saying, well, I understand, because I didn't hear back from. I understand that if that you have to deal with Netflix. So if you don't want me to mention, I'm not going to mention your name unless blah blah blah. And I got it. When you send it, it immediately says like either read, like
or delivered.
Delivered. Well, it says delivered, but this one almost immediately said red. Right. So I was like, okay, well, he's getting them and he's reading it, so I don't know what's going on, but like in the long run, it's not that big of a deal. But I was a little like,
It gives you an idea where you stand in his priorities.
well, yeah, a little bit, like I thought that, he would get back to me. It was the weekend, and some people have policies. My weekend is my weekend, and all that. And I told Jennifer I was having a little. One of the things that I noticed that when I text him, like what I texted, like came in double. Like it would be like my text, and then the same text underneath it, and that's.
Yeah.
And I didn't quite understand that, and. So I didn't really, but I showed that to Jennifer, and I said, because Jennifer knew all about the meeting and everything, and so I showed it to Jennifer, and she's like looking through my phone. She's looking at my phone. She's going, Michael, you're not even texting him. You're texting yourself.
Just figured that out. Right? When you said it showed up twice, I thought, that's what happens if I text myself something like a magazine article I want to hang on to. I'll text it to myself, and it'll show up twice.
Yes.
And I thought, oh my God, you're texting yourself. That's what you're doing.
Yes.
How you even got to there on your phone? I mean, this guy doesn't even have the same first name as you. I'll say that. How you even got there on your phone, I have no idea.
Well, I get to a lot of places on my phone that,
My phone has a mind of its own. Don't ask me, ask it.
Yeah. And it's
got my algorithm down. And
one of the really wonderful things about meeting him and us having such a great kind of fun time talking about movies is that, I didn't want to push him, but I thought like he was in a great position to be able to get personalities or actors, producers, directors, that's kind of stuff on our show, and that's what we do. And I didn't really want to push him about that, but I mentioned that there was a director that I wanted to get on the podcast, and I asked Kaylin about him about 2 weeks ago, because he's got a movie coming out, and they're not the stars of it, but Topher Grace is in it, and Ed Harris is in it, and I've worked with both of those people. And what's his name? Patton?
The new movie coming out, How to Make a Killing, I believe. His name is John Patton Ford.
Yeah. So John Patton Ford made Emily the Criminal. And Emily the Criminal was a movie that I don't know how much attention that it got, or if it got Academy Award nominations, but it was like, I think it was his first movie, and it was like superb. It was absolutely. Did it get any nominations? Did she get nominated for that?
I think so.
I mean, that movie to me was just phenomenal coming from a first-time director. And
no, it got some Spirit Award nominations, but no Academy.
Okay. So what I did was I looked at movies that were coming out next month, and he's got the movie called
How to Make a Killing.
And I thought, gee, I would love to talk to him. It would be wonderful, because I think he's a very talented guy, and it's been 2 or 3 years in between the time that he made that movie. That movie came out 2 years ago, maybe.
Emily?
Yeah.
2022.
Oh, wow. It's been what is that now, 4 years?
Yeah, about 4.
Yeah, so he's not a guy that just turned around and went, oh, okay, I got a movie, I'm just going to go out and do something else. So he's somebody that I'd really want to get on the show. And kind of what we're talking about here is I would just like to the people to know that are watching our show, that it's been a struggle for me and Kaylin and Jim to get guests on the show because we don't have a publicist. I'm not made of money. Kaylin's not made of money. Jim, are you're how's your retirement plan looking these days?
Well, like my father once said to me, son, you couldn't hang on to a nickel with a handful of super glue. So I wouldn't say it's
Yeah.
brimming. Yeah.
Yeah, so
We don't
can't-
have a team for anyone wondering.
Yeah, we don't.
It's
There is
just
no.
us.
There is
Like,
no
it's-
Biehn team. There's like
No
there's-
productions. Yeah.
No, we've just been kind of struggling along, and we've always just had a lot of fun doing it, and it gives me a chance to spend time, of course, with Kaylin and Jim and I. If we weren't doing, and Jim and I, we had an hour conversation last night.
We did the show last night. We should have recorded it. Hit the record button.
Oh yeah, well we've said that to each other for.
I know. Well,
yeah.
that's kind of how the podcast started. We
yeah.
should just record these things.
Early days of the podcast, you'd call me up and go like, I have these conversations with Jim. How can I just record it over my phone
Right.
and then we'll put it out for the podcast? I'm like, the
That's-
audio is not going to work. Don't do
It
that.
do-
We're not
yeah,
doing
yeah.
that. You're not. But yeah, early days it was like, I'll just talk to Jim on the phone for 2 hours. We'll just put that out. And I go, let's just come into a studio and record it.
Turned out to be a little bit more complicated than I thought. Like most things in life, for me, a little bit more complicated than I thought.
Podcast, there's nothing to it. Yeah, right. Easy
Like-
enough. Do it out of my garage.
Like marriage.
Yeah.
Turned out to be a little bit more complicated than I thought. I'm kind of talking. I want to talk to the people that are listening, and I want to let you all know how much I appreciate your feedback. And I want you to know that I look at your feedback and I look at your comments, and slowly but surely we're growing, and
We've been doing very well lately, just to toot our own horn a little bit in terms of numbers, views, across platforms. The guests we've had on, Michael Rooker last week was fantastic. I've been waiting a long
Yeah.
time to get
We got a
Michael
lot of
Rooker. I
good
put
comment
clips
on
out
that.
of
We got,
Rooker.
I read the comments, but God, we got over 1,300 comments on YouTube from the Cameron podcast. I don't think I read all 1,300.
Cameron,
of them, but I
Rooker,
read-
all these things. We are on the up,
Yeah.
which is good. And
Yeah.
me working in podcasts for so long, I will say like the hardest part of making a podcast is getting an audience and maintaining that audience.
Getting some kind of profile.
And seeing
Yeah.
as how we don't have a team, we don't do any marketing, we don't do any of that shit.
No publicist,
No
yeah.
publicist, no
nobody
nothing.
to go out and reach out to actors and actresses.
Nope.
Yeah.
I have been doing that a little bit, and I will say, even the How to Make a Killing movie, I reached out to Topher Grace a couple weeks ago, his management. I just sent him an email like, "Hey, you worked with Topher Grace. Let's get." I didn't hear back from them, but yeah, just seeing as how we don't have a team, we're doing pretty good in terms of getting more views and getting more attention, and it's just really fun. It's really
And
exciting right now.
Kaylin and I have always said, we do this. It's fun. We get to see each other. We get to talk about movies. Jim and I, that's mostly what we do anyway, is talk about movies. And so it's
Stuff in
just fun. But what happens is when you start getting 25,000 followers, and again, I don't know if that's really 25,000 people that, it depends on who we have on. And of course, Jim Cameron comes
obviously.
on, we have 125, he's probably up to 135,000
He
views
is, yeah.
now. And, we have on Michael Rooker, and, but what's interesting is when it's just the three of us, those people seem to be kind of interested in listening to the three of us too, and and that's kind of fun. And what date do we have Charlie Sheen coming in?
So he's going to be in it's early February, so it's
you
like
don't
the
have
first
a date. You don't know a date.
I do have a date, but I don't like throwing it out there. It's like bad.
Why not?
Because it's just bad juju. I don't like to
It's
like
bad juju.
It's bad juju. Yeah, you don't go. I once the fucking thing is filmed and in the can and ready to release, I'll be like, okay, we have a Charlie Sheen interview. Until then, I don't know. Something might happen. I don't like to.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't like to.
But
put
it's
bad
soon.
juju
I
out
think
there.
my
It's
I think
soon.
my son believes in ghosts.
And aliens.
Can you let us know? Is it early?
Yeah,
next
it's
month?
early February. I don't know when we'll release it.
We'll release it the next day, won't we?
Depend. I don't know.
Oh
I
he
have to.
He might be one of those
He
guys too that goes like, I need to see it.
Yeah.
But Charlie's pretty much like, there's
Let
not
it
much
all
that
hang out,
he's
yeah.
not much. There's not much that Charlie could say that like
Let
would
it
surprise
all hang out.
anybody. But
we
my-
have a date locked. Charlie is coming in. That's happening, and it's happening soon.
And I'm so thrilled with that. And I've always actually, well, first of all, I'm going to blame him for my career taking a big dip when I did Navy SEALs. And I'll expect. Kayla knows the story. Jim knows the story in spades. Jim was there at the time when I was doing that movie, and we were giving notes to Mark Platt over at. I saw Mark Platt's name come up recently. He was the executive for. Oh, by the way, I didn't realize that Hemdale. Did you know, Jim, that Hemdale, who is the company that basically first funded the Terminator and gave the Terminator money, did you realize they were the company behind Platoon?
I'd forgotten that, but I watched that documentary you asked me to watch, the one that Charlie exec produced from a few years
What's
ago.
the name of that documentary?
Brothers in Arms.
Okay, so
The Making of Platoon. Fascinating.
Yes.
Fascinating documentary.
if anybody's out, is it on YouTube, Jim?
Yes, it's available on YouTube.
All right, so you can just go watch it and for free, and it's a good thing to watch, and it's mostly about the training that they did. Is it Daryl Dye?
It's Dale Dye. There's a fellow
Dale
named Dale
Dye.
Dye who was a Vietnam vet and formed a company in the early 80s called Warriors Inc. to be a tech advisor to movies. And he was a tech advisor on a ton of things. He was the tech advisor on Platoon, and he also winds up acting quite a bit too. He was in Saving Private Ryan, and he did the training for Saving Private Ryan. He was the tech advisor on the Vietnam show for HBO that I worked on, the Vietnam War Story. So he had this company called Warriors Inc. And when they went to shoot the movie, he took the cast and put them through about 2 weeks of
You're talking about Charlie.
grunt
You're talking
training.
about Platoon, right?
I'm talking about Platoon,
Yeah.
and the cast, the guys, the documentary mainly involves interviews with the various cast members years later, and they all talk about what a bonding experience that was. The couple of weeks they spent with Dye out in the bush, digging their own holes, foxholes, etc.
Compared to what we did on Navy SEALs, we had
exactly.
2 weeks where we had 4 or 5 SEALs that do a few push-ups in the morning, go on a little march in the afternoon, and then starting at about 4, start drinking. Through the rest, we did that for about 2 weeks. That was our boot camp when it came to Navy SEALs, and it just kind of shows you the difference between. There are a lot of differences. But I have just started digging into Charlie's career, and I want to talk to him about his movies and his, one of the interesting things that he says, it's either in his book or in that documentary, is that, his dad had done Apocalypse Now, which
talks
is a
about
Vietnam movie, and
Shot
he
it in the
talks about the
Philippines, just
fact
like-
that his dad's in the Philippines when he's a kid, and he's in the Philippines. His dad used to take the family wherever he went, which is really admirable and nice, and I guess, but anyway, so Charlie was down there for a while when they were shooting Apocalypse Now, and his dad stars in a movie, one of the biggest and most famous movies, Apocalypse Now, and and basically, does the as he's making the movie, there's a voiceover that kind of a lot of times in movies helps. We were in Vietnam and it was at this time and that time. When it's a voiceover, and that's the way that they chose to make that movie. And you see voiceovers in all sorts of movies. And then I don't know how many years later, couldn't have been that many years later. Here's
About 10.
Yeah,
About
10 years later, you get Charlie Sheen in the Philippines, in the same place, that his dad shot, and he's the star of a Vietnam movie, and he has a voiceover that kind of
he's
runs
narrating it,
throughout
yeah.
the movie. And
Yeah.
one of the things is interesting about, first of all, Daly probably had some connections in Thailand because of Ferdinand Marcos, and
It would be the Philippines.
I mean
Thailand.
the Philippines. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
In-
yeah.
In the Philippines, because John Daly, he's a guy that we should probably devote a whole podcast to. A fascinating guy.
John Daly was one of the people who put together the Rumble
Thriller?
in the Jungle.
Wasn't it the Thriller? And
No,
no.
he might have done that one too. I know he was responsible for the.
Which
Ali
one was in the
Foreman fight.
Philippines? Which is the
That was the Thriller in Manila.
Well, that's
That
the one he was.
that was
That's the one he was responsible for.
he was responsible also for the one in the Ali fight in the Congo where he beat George Foreman.
Okay, well maybe I'm.
No, but he also
you're
could have
right.
been-
You're
he
right.
very- I think
Actually,
he
you're
also-
you're right. You're right, Jim. That's the one that when you watch the Ali fight, I think they've got Joe Frazier and they've got like a comedian. They've got a couple people that are announcing the fight, and at one point, John Daly comes in. And they introduce him as the person who put the fight together.
That's
and you're-
that's the fight in the Congo.
Okay.
The Rumble in the Jungle.
Okay. And you're exactly right. That's what it is. And it's interesting because he comes in around the third round.
Yeah.
Because they're all talking about it. It might be, who was one? Ali guy, a guy that almost beat him once, twice. I'll think of his name in a second.
Yeah.
Had a son who was a linebacker in Dallas. George Norton.
Oh, yeah,
Ken Norton. I think Ken Norton is doing some of the.
Could be, yeah, probably. Yeah.
So at one point, John Daly comes on, and they introduce him as a person who put the fight together.
The
and
promoter, basically.
Promoter,
who,
promoter of the movie, and
sold the
promoter
rights
of the
and-
fight.
yeah.
And he comes in and casually says, "I think it's going to end in 8," and he goes away. And the fight is Ollie ends up knocking him out in the 8th round. So he's a fascinating individual.
That was in, I think, probably 73. I think that fight was fought somewhere around 73 or 74. And you were dealing with Daly 10, 12 years later.
Well,
He was involved in the movie business by that point.
and Hemdale was responsible, really, from what, and I would have to talk to Gail and Jim about this, but Jim and Gail shopped the Terminator script for, I think, maybe a year. Trying to get the studios interested in it because they weren't going to make that movie unless Jim directed it, and there was I guess a lot of interest in the script, but there wasn't a lot of interest at that time in
Jim
in letting Jim direct the movie, and it was Hemdale, as far as I'm concerned, and John Daly. Is it David Hemmings? Is that the other side of Hemdale?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Hemdale is two people, and and H.E. Dale, of course, is him. But anyway, that really doesn't make any difference. But they were the people that were responsible for.
It was David Hemmings.
Oh.
My word, and John Daly.
Right. Well, what is
Wow.
David Hemmings known for something else, Jim? Is that why you
Yeah,
were?
he was in Blow Up, the 1960s Antonioni movie.
He was in it, or he was?
Yeah, yeah, and he was in
As an actor?
yeah.
Oh
Yeah, he was
wow!
the lead actor
Whoa
in that movie.
wow!
I mean,
Yeah.
you can look on the screen. I'm on his Wikipedia page right now. This is his filmography right here. So it looks like he was in a lot of things.
Quite
Okay.
a few, yeah.
Well, I can't read that.
No,
'cause
I'm just showing the amount of
yeah,
things that it looks
wow.
like he's been in just as an actor, and then he's got. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Was he an American? American, right? English, maybe?
He
It sounds like an
is,
English.
English. No, he
yeah,
was English.
English. Yeah. Yeah. He looks like an English. Those guys all kind of look the same. Hello, mate. You know,
Yeah, yeah. He was in Blow Up, Charge of the Light Brigade.
John.
He was in Barbarella. I remember him
Oh,
in
my
Barbarella,
goodness.
that Jane Fonda movie.
Oh, my goodness.
Remember Barbarella?
Well, I know of it. It's
Yeah.
famously sort of
Softcore,
yeah, with Jane Fonda, correct?
with
Am I-
Jane Fonda,
Yeah,
directed
yeah.
by Roger Vadim,
Yeah,
her
yeah,
husband at the time.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's kind of funny. It's a curiosity. The movie is, but he was in that.
He has a credit in Gangs of New York.
As an actor,
Yeah.
wow. Well, that's a type of thing where it looks like it says Gladiator there too in 2000. Is that the Gladiator that go up a little bit with your right? Go up a little bit right there. Is that Gladiator? I can't see the screen's kind
I
of.
don't think so.
Oh, okay. What's right next to your Gislo?
Oh, that is Gladiator. Oh, he played Cassius in Gladiator.
Okay.
Yeah, he was in Gladiator. I thought he was.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway.
Oh yeah, the announcer, the one who says, and for your entertainment,
Oh, yeah.
the Mongol horde, and the forces of Scorpio. Yeah, he's sort of the announcer at the in the Coliseum.
Wow.
Yeah, that's David Hemmings.
Wow. Well, there's just so many people around who have had just such incredible careers
Yeah,
that, like,
he
I have
directed a lot
known.
of TV stuff too. Directed episodes of Magnum PI.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I've always heard of Hemdale, and it was John Daly that I became not close to, but I've had dinner. Your mother and I have had dinner with John Daly and his wife at the time, and
I
Kiefer.
met John Daly one time. I was friends with his son in school. We were in the same grade, and I was good friends with his son Tim.
Tim Daly, right?
Tim Daly. Me and Tim were good buddies in kind of end of elementary and middle school. We were very good friends, and I met him one time before he died. We went to have lunch at the Grove, me and Tim and his dad, and so I got to sit down with him one time before he died, and he was very nice. But yeah, it was
He was a very, very prominent figure in the 80s and 90s in the movie business.
Yeah, I was good friends with his son in middle school.
Yeah, and I think that then he and his wife split up, and then Kiefer Sutherland married.
Yeah, so yeah,
Yeah. Well, I think John Daly, to be honest here, I think John Daly, he a producer, wheeler, dealer. I think he'd be one of those guys that you kind of have to hold onto your wallet when
you count your fingers after you shake his hand. Yeah.
I don't know. Did you pay for lunch that day as a 12-year-old when you met him? He was known for being pretty slippery, kind of like that guy Ahmad Amashan. What was that guy's name? There's another guy that was a little slippery. I'm trying to think. He did a lot of work. But anyway, so there was that name, and then there was another name. Oh, there's another name on Platoon, Jim. Do you remember a guy by the name of Pierre David?
Yes.
Okay, well, I went up and did that horrible movie that I've talked about before where I went up to Canada because Ed Lamato said to me, yeah, it's not very good, Michael, but we get your price set. And once you get and that's the one that they paid me 50 grand for, and I was like 21 or 22. I had never seen numbers like that before. I'm like, okay, I'm heading right up there, kind of like Bill Burr in Saudi Arabia. No, I'm going right. Yep, I'll be there. And but Pierre David was like the executive producer of that movie. Do you know anything else that he's done?
Did the David Cronenberg movies?
Cronenberg.
He was
French Canadian. Was he French Canadian? Is that possible?
He's got a credit
Just
on
seeing
Platoon
Canadian.
as well.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is I was watching. I showed my 10-year-old the first 10 minutes of Platoon because Jim, you told me, hey, the first 10 minutes of that movie is, a lot of interesting.
A lot of things that were experiences in Vietnam.
Yeah,
show up
guys
in the
getting
first-
off the airplane,
and you see somebody coming at him, somebody who's been in country for a while with that what they called 1,000-yard stare.
Yeah,
That, and then
yeah.
and you see the body bags on the tarmac, and then within a few minutes, Willem Dafoe is down in one of those tunnels, which was a really horrendous undertaking. They were called tunnel rats, guys who would crawl down in those tunnels. But that was really, you had to have brass cojones to do that. You have a flashlight in your hand and a 45, which Dafoe has. That's how they would do it.
Well, he's done down in the tunnel. What happens is they're walking along, and Charlie looks down. He sees a dead Vietnamese, whatever, and the guy's like half rotted away, and at one point, not Defoe, the other one, was the one with the face, Berenger. I think it was Berenger. Kind of looks at the cave that the guy's dead next to, and it is one of those caves, and he kind of steps into it, but that's it. I mean, they don't take it any further.
Okay.
But that movie, and Charlie, well, I've heard him. I get his book and the documentary mixed up. I know that he wasn't in charge of the documentary. One of the things about the documentary that is so evident and so obvious is that all of them are trying to dance around the fact that what, Jim?
Their working relationship with
Oliver.
Their working relationship with Oliver
was what?
That it was difficult.
Okay.
They love the movie. They love the experience. They're thrilled to have been a part of it. They really bonded with the other actors. That was all really heartfelt and comes across in that documentary. But they get real diplomatic when they talk about what it was actually like to work with
what did Johnny?
With Oliver.
What was Johnny when Johnny Depp was talking about his relationship with him? Do you remember what Johnny Depp said?
He was going to stand on a table at a restaurant, and he started to unzip his pants to piss all over Oliver. And one of the cast members grabbed him and said, "That might not be a good idea." He was close to doing it.
Yes. And you can tell all of the actors are dancing around the fact, probably, that Oliver Stone made it very, very difficult on all of them. And this goes back to people like Billy Friedkin. I think that Defoe says in the documentary, yeah, he was like this, maybe to try to, grind us down or to get better performances out of us, but you don't really have to do that. That's the same thing with Billy Friedkin, and people talk about Jim Cameron, like they just cannot leave him alone. And I saw
before we get into that, do you want to hear Johnny Depp talking about Oliver Stone in the documentary?
Yes. Oh yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
I haven't watched
Went
this.
to the restroom, and I saw at the edge of the bar is a restaurant. I saw Oliver and Alex Ho. I literally thought, this is it. I will make my statement here and now. I was wasted. So I climb up on this marble banister, and I got behind Oliver's table. There was a curtain right here. Oliver's head's there. So I unzipped the old fly and pulled out the old friend and was about ready to, I was gonna urinate on Oliver. And history will absolve me. Challenge after challenge after challenge, word after word after word, and you go, oh, I'll get you, man, I'll get you. And that was my moment. I seen it, I was about to take it, and I felt this violent, like, tug on the back of my shirt. We fell flat on the ground, and it was the first AD, H. Gordon Booze, and he says, are you out of your fucking mind? What are you doing? He's on his fucking head. No!
Oh, I'm glad you can do stuff like this now, Kaylin, because there's all sorts of stuff in this documentary where you get the feeling that, first of all, it sounded like the boot camp stuff sounded like just tremendous, and I keep wanting to call him Daryl Dye. What's his name?
Dale
Dye.
as in him, Dale.
Yeah.
Dale.
And I
Dye.
get the feeling from you, Jim, that you feel that he was a bit of a self-promoter. Is that?
Oh, definitely. He would be the first person to say that too.
Okay.
He was unabashed about it.
Okay.
Yeah, really.
Okay.
Very much. And he was sort of like a classier Lee Ermey. I don't mean that to denigrate Lee Ermey, but he was he showed up on movies as a tech advisor and wormed his way into being an actor in them as well.
Well, he's got a big credit right up front.
Yeah.
When I noticed when I was showing that's when I realized Hamdale was involved. That's when I realized, why would Pierre David have been involved in that, Jim?
Probably brought in some element of financing, some overseas element. Pierre David was a fellow that ICM used to deal with quite a bit with those Canadian productions.
Well,
and he had a,
we talk a lot about the cast. Throw the cast back up there. I know you're looking at Pierre David now, but the screen. This is the first time I've ever been able to look at the screen, and I don't have like problems with my sight. It's only reading, but I can see Defoe, I can see Berenger, I can see Forrest Whitaker, I can see Keith David,
Kevin Dillon,
John McKinley, Kevin Dillon,
Tony Todd.
Who?
Tony Todd.
Tony Todd. We talk. I talk a lot about Tombstone and say, "Oh my God, what a cast!" I mean, that cast was just packed. This cast is, very, very formidable, and they were all pretty new. I heard, Jim, I think on a doc. I think something was. My phone is starting to send me people like bits where they talk about this movie now, because I've started talking about it so much. And according to something that was sent to me, it had the same budget as the Terminator, $6 million.
It was not very big. They talk in the documentary about how, well, it was just going to be this low budget thing shooting overseas. We didn't anticipate it as any big deal Oscar winning type movie. We just thought it was going to be a low budget enterprise, and I didn't realize the budget was that low.
I can see that you brought up the budget is $6 million. How much did it make?
138 million.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go back and watch it again, but I thought Charlie's performance in that movie was extraordinary. Actually everybody's performance in that movie is extraordinary. It's a little bit to me like Tombstone or Aliens, other movies that I've worked on that I can talk about because I was involved in them. Just everybody seemed to be very, very good. Yeah, and I look at this and I say to myself, gee, I wonder why I never heard about this movie. This might have been something that, geez, I could have. I was up against Defoe a lot when I was younger, and I passed on some stuff that Defoe ended up doing. Now he's a big movie star, but and I was wondering, and I think this came out right around the time in between Aliens, right around the time of Aliens and The Abyss, or I might have been like not available at all because I'd never even heard of this movie. I don't think anybody heard about this movie, but it, it ended up winning the Academy Award for Best Picture, and Charlie, who is, I know Charlie well enough to know that he was playing a character. That first 10 minutes of the movie, when he is getting off of the transfer truck going to Vietnam, and the guys who have been there, like you said, the guy walks by him with that 1,000-mile stare, and he looks at him, and that kind of close-up of Charlie in slow motion.
Yeah.
Charlie plays a guy that's kind of never grounded, kind of always like not knowing what's going on, probably like a lot of people that actually fought in Vietnam, never quite knew, what was going on, a little confused, a little like, what am I doing here? And that's the complete opposite of who Charlie Sheen is. Charlie Sheen is like very confident with himself.
Yeah.
He's and funny and fun and quick as far as humor goes. And so I would love to talk to him about about Platoon, and I want to talk to him a little bit about his father, because his father was somebody that when I was young, my mother really kind of fell for his father. Now, he would have been, I think, younger than my mother, but my mother used to always, because Martin Sheen used to do a lot of those television shows.
He was in a ton of them. When you look at his credits, there's a lot of TV stuff from the late 60s.
And that was, I think, early 60s, wasn't it, Jim?
Mid to late 60s.
Mid to late 60s.
Mid to late
okay,
60s,
so that's when I was 10 or 12 or 13 and stuff.
Yeah.
And my mother used to always say, oh, he's my favorite actor. He's my favorite actor, because he would show up on all these Barnaby Jones and this one and that
Ben
one.
Kane Bronson and all kinds of old.
All of those shows. And that...
I think the first movie I remember him from was Badlands.
Well, he did a movie before. Well, he did. He was in the movie that Mike Nichols directed. I think that was one of his first movies. The Mike Nichols movie, Catch 22.
Oh yes.
Yeah. No, he was.
Now talk about a cast.
Well, yeah. Who was in that, Jim?
Well, gosh, John.
Kalen's got it up here. So, Kalen, who was in that?
Alan Arkin, Orson Welles, Richard Benjamin, Martin Sheen, Art Garfunkel, Anthony Perkins.
Off to a good start here.
John Voight has a great
Voight's
part
great in it.
Yeah, has a terrific part. Art Garfunkel, Charles Grodin is in it.
Of course,
Charlie Grodin, Martin Balsam, a character actor from the 60s who's in a ton of movies. Tons of Buck Henry, who also wrote the script for The Graduate, is in the movie as well.
Right.
He wrote a lot of good scripts. So it's just, and Orson Welles has a really good cameo in it.
Yeah, Harry Dean Stanton, I can see, was in it also. I mean,
Harry Dean, love Harry Dean. Anything Harry Dean is in is worth watching.
This again, you look at this cast, and I've said before about Tombstone, it's hard to find movies that have got a cast like we had in Tombstone. But actually, there's quite a bit of them. We just looked at Platoon, and now we're looking at Catch-22, and actually, there's probably hundreds and hundreds of movies that have got casts like this that I'm just not aware of. I watched Catch-22. I didn't get to finish it, so I didn't get to the part that Orson Welles was in. So
you missed the part where John Voight calls in a German raid on his own base.
Okay. Well, I didn't finish it, but I was, when I think of him as a director, I always think sort of the stage. I'm not sure why. Maybe he took on some stage productions and made them.
Who, Mike Nichols?
Yes.
Well, he was a stage performer. He got his start doing comedy with Elaine May.
Okay.
Nichols and May.
Okay.
So he kind of comes from a theatrical background.
Okay. Well, I was surprised when I saw Catch-22, Jim. I don't know who his DP was, but the filmmaking ability that he seemed to have at that time, and I don't know what he had done before that.
The Graduate and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf.
Okay. So he kind of had been around. Around. Those are two absolutely, brilliant movies, and I guess it would just call it like the way the movie looked. And I think they shot it in Mexico. I think that Charlie talks about being down in Mexico on that movie. And it's just extremely well shot.
The shots of those planes taking off.
Yes.
It's supposedly set in an American air base near Italy during World War II. And it focuses on a group of airmen. And those initial shots early in the movie of those B-17s taking off to go, or I don't know what planes they were. I think they were B-17s taking off from that base and going on. Just stunning photography. Just stunning.
Who was the DP?
A guy named David Watkin.
Yeah, and he won the Academy Award for Best Cinematography.
For that movie?
No, in '85 for Out of Africa is what it's called.
Out of Africa. That is
also
Clint Eastwood movie.
Well shot. That's Robert Redford and Meryl Streep. Right. Sidney Pollack. That's a very well shot movie. Just, gorgeous scenery in that movie.
Well,
Stunning.
You start by being in Africa. That probably helps a
little
bit.
Yeah, it helped. Yeah.
But my point originally was, before I even know who the cinematographer was on this, was how great that movie looked from a director's standpoint. I think you could take somebody like Jim Cameron or Martin Scorsese, and they would say, that movie was that was tight, that was fun, and the movie itself is, it's Catch-22. That's was that Jim? Was that an expression before that book was written?
No, he created it.
He created it.
In fact,
who wrote the book? Who wrote the book?
Joseph Heller wrote the book, and he was he actually had been served on an airplane in World War II, and he was calling it Catch-18. But then another author had a book coming out called Mila 18. Leon Uris, who wrote Exodus, had a book called Mila 18 about the Warsaw Uprising during World War II. So the publishers said, hey, we have to come up with a different number. So he said, well, how about 22? We'll call it Catch-22. So it was...
so it's this movie that basically is responsible for people using... the
word in the lexicon.
Catch-22
is a direct reference to the movie.
Wow. Well, that's interesting. That's interesting from a writer's standpoint to create a phrase that people have been using ever since. Okay.
But I remember Martin Sheen was in that movie too. I saw the movie again not long ago.
Yeah, that goes back to Martin Sheen. Before that, and I think that Charlie even had a small role in the execution of Private. What was
He
that one?
did. It was a TV movie, a pretty good TV movie made in the kind of mid to early 70s called The Execution of Private Slovik, which was a true story about an American soldier who was executed for desertion and probably shouldn't have been, all things considered, but
Yes.
but it was a pretty well received. It was a prestigious made for TV movie.
I think that that's one of the things my mom sat me down and
Yeah, it probably was.
and
Yeah.
sat down. You said, you got to watch this. And, her other favorite person, it just shows you that my mom had good taste in actors, was George C. Scott. And when I worked with George C. Scott, who did like me, and I've talked about my relationship with him before. But he's not the kind of guy that you normally would go up and go like, "Hey, can I have your autograph?" You could, you
Or
just
would
get
you
a.
would you go up to him and say, "You were my mother's favorite actor"?
Well, he just had a vibe about him that was I don't even know how to say it. It's like energy. He
Yeah.
he
Charisma.
he didn't have a scowl on his face. And charisma's not quite the intimidating
Yeah.
by not doing anything, just by sitting there. He just had. But I remember I told him I said something about my mother. Well, first I was a photographer. I was taking pictures of everything and thought of myself as a photographer. The way Jeff Bridges went on his film shoots and would shoot stuff, and I never got very far past. But I did take this picture of George C. Scott, and I got it developed while I was shooting with him, and I asked him if he would sign it for my mother. And because George liked me, and as I've said before, he offered me a movie later on in his career that he was directing. I think he directed, or at least he was producing, and he wanted me to play a younger version of him in the Patton Robert Halmy production of, I would call it Patton 2. But he was an intimidating. But I kind of wanted to talk to Charlie a little bit also about. I think he calls him his pops. I've always in my family, I always called my dad my dad. My children call me dad, but I think that Charlie calls his father pops. What's the movie that then he went and did with Sissy Spacek that was so good?
Badlands. That was Badlands. Yes.
Okay, and who directed Badlands?
A guy named Terrence Malick,
Terrence Malick, yeah.
had a sensational debut with that. And then he would go off and not make movies for a decade at a time and then show up and make
Didn't
a
he
movie.
do Red? That movie, that army. What was that army movie that he did with Nick Nolte and Sean Penn?
The Thin Red Line with Sean Penn.
Yeah.
Thin Red Line, yeah.
Thin
Based
Red
on
Line, yeah.
a novel by the same guy who wrote From Here to Eternity and about the Battle of Guadalcanal. I remember reading that screenplay for William Morris years ago and thinking it was kind of a confusing mess.
I
think
kind of had the way the movie ended up, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, Nick Nolte was in it, I think.
Yeah, I think that that's the movie where they hired some kid to play the lead in the movie, and he ended up not being in the movie that much. And but going back to what was the first one we were talking about? The Terrence Malick? Badlands. Badlands is Martin Sheen, Sissy Spacek, and it is based on a killer named Charles Starkweather. And that is a brilliant, small movie based on a true story. And the two of them just kill it. And this is when Martin Sheen was about as close to, I think, James Dean as you possibly could. He was young, he was good looking, he was charismatic, he was a great actor.
You would definitely think he's channeling James Dean in that movie for sure.
He just was absolutely fantastic. And the interesting thing about that movie is that that movie was based on a guy, as I just said, Charles Starkweather, okay? When I was a kid growing up, this is not something that I heard like or looked up or finally, found it on my parents, I remember when I was 10 or 11 or 12, I don't know what year that all happened, but I remember my parents saying that Charles Starkweather used to pick up the trash at our house in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Yep.
So
the movie starts with him picking up trash.
It
He's
does?
a trash collector. Yeah.
It does. Oh.
It does. Yeah. He's picking up trash.
Okay,
and she's the Sissy Spacek character was a girl named Carol Ann Fugit, who I think was only about 17 years old or so.
Well, he wasn't very old either, was he?
No, he was only like 21 or 23, something like that.
It's also got Harry Dean Stanton in it. Man, that guy.
Harry Dean, he's going to show up everywhere.
Yeah. That's a movie that
Warren Oates is in it.
Yeah, I don't think that we've ever even mentioned Warren Oates on this show before, and it's just amazing that Warren Oates was also so good
in a number of things.
Yeah, this movie. This movie was one that I remember watching, and I probably haven't seen it in 20 years. But this is one of those movies that I watched as a kid. When I say a kid, I mean 30 years old or 25 or 30 years old or whatever, and thought, this is like the best movie I've ever seen. Like, this is like, and it's a great movie.
I think it has a 97 rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
It does? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was funny. You and I were talking, Jim, about Rotten Tomatoes, and we were talking about reviewers and stuff like that. And, the movie that's going to sweep the Academy Awards is going to win Best Picture and probably win, I don't know, it's nominated for 10 Academy Awards and probably is going to win 8, is the one that I talked on the podcast about a month ago, because I saw it when it came out, that I just couldn't understand, and
one battle after another.
Yeah. Jim, you don't need, I know how you feel about it. So I think for me saying that I don't understand it, I think it's a strong enough statement from me.
I would say ditto on that. That's all I need to say.
But
I finally got to see it on HBO.
Are we just the old guys that don't get movies like Parasite and Everything, Everywhere, All the Time, whatever the name of that thing was?
Close enough.
Yeah.
It could be maybe the world just passed us by.
Yeah.
Like those guys said when I walked out of Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
Maybe the world just passed us by, but I didn't get it. And it's not my favorite Paul Thomas Anderson movie. That's for sure.
Also, Jim, I mean, it's obvious
Leonardo
that
movie.
the audience didn't get it either because it's going to lose $100 million, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious. How many nominations does it got?
I think it got 13 or so.
13 nominations.
That's not even Sinners got 16, I believe.
Yeah, Sinners got the
You know
the
what?
bulk
I
of.
really kind of beat myself up over having not seen Sinners. I wanted to see that when it came out, and I didn't, and I'm glad for them because I think they kind of got pushed to the side at the Golden Globes. I might be wrong about that, but I think there was a little bit of a feeling of like, what about Sinners? What about Sinners? And you know what? Maybe there'll be a surprise, and maybe Sinners will win Best Picture.
Maybe it could. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah,
I've seen, it's happened before. I mean, it's interesting we're talking about this because those award shows are just, slipping into irrelevance these days. They almost are.
I know. Well, they're not on. First of all, the Academy Awards is, for the first time, I think this year, is not going to be on a network show. And Jim, it's like everything else in the film business is that
It ain't like it
Nobody
used to be.
cares.
Nobody cares. Really, I don't
Nobody.
care.
No.
I remember it wasn't even 10 years ago. I remember participating in a pool to predict
Yes.
the Oscar winners. It had some relevance at that point. It used to be that the Oscar telecast was one of the highest rating shows of the year, along with the Super Bowl and the last episode of Dallas, something comparable like that. And these days, like you said, it's not even going to be on a network.
Well, now there's just so much content out there that
Yeah, exactly.
Kalen called me up in the middle of last week, and he said to me, "Hey, Dad, I think that you should, you might want to check out this movie." Was it? I think it might have been a Netflix movie.
It's a 4-part miniseries.
But yeah, it's called "Killed by Lightning."
Death by Lightning.
Death by Lightning. And I talked to you, Jim, about it. It's about the assassination of
Garfield.
Yes, and
yes.
which is really kind of a forgotten assassination. I didn't know, Jim, that there have been 4 presidents that were assassinated.
Yes,
I thought
yes.
it was 3. I thought I knew about Garfield. Who was the other one?
McKinley. It was McKinley's death that put Teddy Roosevelt in the White House.
Right.
And McKinley was killed just shortly after he had been inaugurated.
What was the beef with the guy who killed him? Just didn't like.
He was it was up in a World's Fair in Buffalo, New York, and the guy was kind of a agitator. He was I think they called him anarchist. He was an anarchist. Didn't believe in any kind of government. And he was just some politically motivated fellow, kind of a lone, crazy character, a little bit of a Lee Harvey Oswald type, And he was in a line to shake hands with the president, and he had his hand. He had something wrapped around his hand, and obviously he had the gun under the wrapping around his hand, and he shot McKinley in the stomach. And McKinley lived for a while. It looked like he was going to survive, but then he took a turn for the worse and died. And Roosevelt was camping on a mountain.
Too.
What?
That's what happened to Garfield too.
He lingered for a while. Yeah.
Well, the show that Kalen said you might want to watch, which I did, I thought was extremely well done. It stars Michael Sheen and what's the name?
Matthew McFadden.
Matthew McFadden plays the killer, and both of them, I mean all of them, are just, it's just a very, very well done, like piece of history. Also, it's fun to watch something like that. And they do such a good job these days because they probably have exactly some of the speeches down that these guys said, and you can pull them up on YouTube. And so I thought it was very, very, this is the thing about the movie business these days, is that I never even heard of it. I never even heard of it.
And I have a real strong preference and love for movies based on historical incidents.
Yeah.
I love, like Amistad. I loved that movie of Spielberg's that not too many people talk about.
The guy that played the killer.
Matthew McFadden.
Matthew, how do you say his last name?
McFadden or McFadden.
McFadden. Was he nominated for that? Did he get any kind of he was just stunningly good. He's an English actor. Boy, the English are coming over here. They're taking over the world when it comes to acting, playing Americans.
So
nothing.
Not for Death by Lightning. I mean, okay. So first, it came out in November. I hadn't even heard of it at all. But a friend of mine who is like my movie buddy, we'd share, he goes, hey, you should watch the show Death by Lightning on Netflix.
Yes.
And I watched it, and I'm not a big historical drama kind of guy. I don't not like it, but I finished that first episode and I was like, oh wow, this is good. I binged the whole thing, and then I said to you, you should watch it. Matthew McFadden, again, it came out in November, so I don't think that there's been an awards show for it yet, but I hadn't even heard of this show at all.
I mean, either.
And he is phenomenal in it. He won 2 Emmy Awards for his role in Succession.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, and he plays. I mean, he's so great. He's so great in Secession. He's so great in this.
He's really good in this. Yeah.
He's really good in this. And I don't know if you remember, Jim, probably like a year ago, we were talking about some of our favorite comedies of all time. And I said, you need to go watch a comedy called Death at a Funeral.
I did watch that.
Yeah, he is the lead in Death at a Funeral.
Okay.
Yeah, and it is one of my favorite comedies of all time. He's kind of more of a straight man in that.
Yeah,
He's the one trying
yeah.
to keep everyone together, and this guy's on acid at the funeral home.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
a dwarf
Things
comes
go
in
awry.
and is like his dad's gay
Complications
lover that he didn't know
ensue.
about.
Yeah.
So he plays
yeah.
more of a straight man in that. But Death at a Funeral is great. I was just looking at his acting credits, and I guess he's got a role in Grindhouse too.
In what?
Grindhouse? He's got a small role in, but he's fantastic, and he's so good in Death by
In
Lightning.
Death Proof or?
It just says Grindhouse. I think it's one of the movies in between.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
He's got a little.
Yeah.
I said a little nothing, but I just thought it was funny.
Yeah. So I watched this movie, and historically it was interesting to me because it's kind of the president who was assassinated that nobody ever hears about, and they make a point in the movie, especially at the end of the movie with his wife. And the guy that killed him was kind of a glory-seeking kind of guy, thinking he was, doing something wonderful for the country, and that he was going to write books and become famous and travel the world, and ended up getting hung like 2 weeks later. But there's a scene that I'm sure that didn't happen in real life where his wife, Michael, Michael who?
Shannon.
Michael Shannon. Michael Shannon plays the president, and his wife comes down to the cell to tell him that she has stopped any chance that anything was ever going to be written about him, or if this guy had ideas of writing, having a book. I think he wrote a book, and had very grandiose ideas about his book. And she comes down and said, I bought the rights to it. Nobody will ever see it. And she said, nobody will ever remember my husband, but that also means nobody will remember you, which is one of the things that was attractive in the movie, felt like was attractive to that character, was that he was going to be famous, that he was going to be well known, he was going to write a book, everybody was going to love him, and that's not what happened. So I watched it, and
apparently he might have been schizophrenic too in real life. That guy. That's what I've been reading online. Since watching it, I've been reading about the case, and people are saying he might have had schizophrenia too, the real life.
I might have schizophrenia.
I always heard him described as a disappointed job seeker.
Yeah. Well, again, anybody who shoots anybody else has got, the whole idea of I've never understood all those shows that Jim, I know that you like watching a lot, and Jennifer likes watching a lot, and I used to watch them quite a bit, where they are like a 1 hour
true crime shows.
True crime shows.
Yeah.
I've never understood. I've always been yelling at the screen, just divorce her. That's all you got to do, or divorce him. You don't have to fucking, you
don't have
hit
to
him
hire
over the
a
head
hitman
with
to kill him.
But boy, those are also on podcasts. I see, I think one of the podcasts that is a very highly watched podcast is that True Crimes.
True crime is a big podcast genre. It's up there with
I listen to a number of them.
And I'm not sure exactly. I guess the fascination is always what, really, that God, that just seems crazy.
Usually they have a a wrap up. They end. There's a logical ending. The cops find the bad guy. He slipped up somewhere. They find the mistake. Somebody makes the right phone call at the right time. They usually have kind of a neat wrap up to them. The ones where, and we still don't know who killed her, are kind of, you don't see too many true crime episodes that end with, and it's still a mystery.
I saw Jamie, not Fox, Jamie
Kennedy?
Jamie Kennedy. Yesterday, I was like looking through stuff. My phone was throwing stuff at me, and Jamie Kennedy's podcast came up, and he had on Kato Kalin, and he says, "Do you mind if I ask you anything about the OJ?" Like they were talking for a while about what, I would have no idea.
Yeah, I was going to say, what else would you talk about with Kato Kalin?
Yeah. Do you mind if I ask you anything about Kato Kalin? I mean, about O.J. Simpson trial. And he kind of said, yeah, no, let's talk about it. And I want to give him some shit for like, really? You're bringing on Kato Kalin like 40 years later to talk about you think you're going to grab some new information there, Jamie? You think Kato? Yeah. I think the prosecution had a kind of a tough time with him. He was always dancing. I don't know. I just lived in the back house.
Juice came and knocked on my door and said, "You want to get a hamburger?" And I said, "Yeah, let's do it. I got to break $100 bill." Yeah, that's true. Let's go. I got my burger and went back, and then like in the middle of the night, I hear this bang, bang, bang on my. He got his 15 minutes of fame.
Boy, did he. I'm not sure that's history. I'm not sure that's something that you really want.
Well, remember, he was basically couch surfing at Nicole's house, and OJ didn't care for that too much. So he said, "Get out of my ex-wife's house. I've got a guest house. You can come live at my place." And that's how he wound up at OJ's place.
Well, anyway, I was talking about Death by Lightning, and I really liked it. I thought it was really well done.
I'm going to watch it. I'll have to watch it.
I love the actors in it. I thought they all just did a great job. There's one thing about it, and I mentioned this to Kaylin, was that it felt to me like when they spoke like they were living in 2025.
Okay.
And I don't know. I mean, I don't think you need to get into all the "I'll be your huckleberry,"
right,
you ignorant wretch, and all that kind of stuff. But that's kind of what made Tombstone a popular.
One of the things, absolutely.
And I've seen other historical pieces. One that was really good that had to do with the defense of a English soldier who shot some protesters around, the beginning of the Revolutionary War. It was It was a very, very good. It's got a great actor in it that stars.
Yeah.
It was very, very good. But there's something about it. Just felt to me in this one that there was nobody there as kind of a dialect coach to, give it a little bit of, like, everybody had the same American accent, sort of, and it felt to me like a lot of those guys were coming from different places, and a lot of them would have had somewhat of an accent or something different.
Right.
And
or expressions that we don't use these days.
Yes.
Your reference to "I'm your daisy" and "I'm your huckleberry," were common expressions at that time, especially from the South. But and they were, I think, a real important contribution to the movie. The way that Kevin researched the dialogue and the dialects from those times, I think it really helps. And when you read contemporary, writings about that time, you do see those references to words and phrases that we just don't use these days. So it would be, I think, helpful to have maybe infused a little bit more of that time-specific dialogue into it. But I'm going to watch it. I haven't seen it yet, so I'm really eager to see it. Because, like I said, anything that's for one thing, anything that's based on historical material is damn near impossible to get financing for. So anybody who's able to get financing for it, hallelujah.
Go to
I'll
Net-
watch just
go,
for that reason.
Go to Netflix.
Well, I will. That's where I'm.
It
Well,
looks great too. The sets and them being in Chicago back in that time. I thought it looked very, very, very
Cool.
well too. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
It did look good. I think that Kalen's brought up. Did we play that already? We didn't
No,
play that.
we haven't played it yet.
There's
I want to
guys-
just remind you.
I was, the phone's throwing stuff at me that it knows that I likes, and Jim Cameron happened to do an interview with a guy named Graham Bessinger, and I watched it. It just came up on my phone. It was like 10 minutes, just a piece of a podcast like we put out. We do that all the time, and I watched it, and I thought it was Graham Norton. Okay, so I thought I was watching the Graham Norton podcast, which is Graham Bensinger, but I thought I was watching the Graham Norton podcast, which is like in Europe and maybe in America too, like one of the biggest podcasts.
I don't even think it's a podcast. It's just a show.
Just a show. Okay. I mean, okay. So I that's who I thought I was watching. And here, I'm going to have Kalen run a little bit of Jim Cameron. And this guy basically started pushing Jim about the way that he treated people back in the day, and how he felt. And he got Jim to say something like, the way that I have evolved as a director. One of the things that I thought he said was interesting that is not going to be in this clip is that what Jim kind of realized after he made Titanic, and he had that long period of time that he went and he was sitting on the board at NASA, and he was like, doing this and that and underwater stuff, is that like just a lot of people out there that don't give a fuck about movies. They could care. They don't watch movies. They're too busy.
Doing stuff,
discovering things, and inventing things, and doing stuff. Right. And I thought that was sort of interesting that at that point, Jim, when he happened to be around a lot of people that were movers and shakers, I guess, in their fields. And I'm talking about science, I'm talking about technology, I'm talking about those kind of movers and shakers, that he realized, like, none of them gave a shit about fucking movies. You know? They don't care about Jim Cameron and his movies. They don't watch movies. They're too busy making money, or they're too busy inventing AI, or or dealing with the government. And I have a feeling that Jim is. I'm sure that the U.S. government is. I didn't ask him about that, but I'm sure that the U.S. government has reached out to Jim and said, "Hey, we've got this program and that program, and you might, you think you could help us with?" I actually think that somebody asked him that years ago, and he kind of said, "Well, that's not something I really can. Even if I did, I really couldn't talk about it," which is a yes. You could just say, "No, that never happened." But when you say, "Well, even if something like that did happen, I couldn't talk about it," that usually means the government's contacted you and wanted your help when it came to one thing or another. But anyway,
like Martin Sheen says in Apocalypse Now, I'm not at liberty to discuss that operation if it did occur.
Yes, if it did occur, yes. So anyway, Kalen's going to play this little bit of Jim talking to not Graham Norton, not Graham Norton, but
who's English? I don't
Ron
even think
Graham,
this guy's
yeah.
English,
Anyway, I didn't know. I saw Graham and I thought, oh, it's that guy. Graham probably doesn't have that spaceship in the background of his shot. I don't know.
You think?
Can you see that? Is Jim able to see what
No,
we're looking
no,
at?
he's
not.
Okay.
No,
All
but-
right. Okay. Go ahead and play this a little bit here.
And I mean, probably speaking to kind of your change of ways too. I mean, Kate Winslet's obviously worked with you on Avatar back in the Titanic days. She was quoted as, speaking to how, she was genuinely frightened of you. He has a temper like,
Well,
you wouldn't believe.
Let's unpack that a little bit. She gave one interview when she finished the movie, and she threw me under the bus. But that was not reflective of the actual process of our work for 6 months, which was very attuned to each other. And we were friends during that period. And we were friends immediately after that, because I called her up and said, "What the hell?" She said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I was kind of depressed, and I was letting the character go, and I said stuff I shouldn't have said." And I said, "All right, fine." And then we have been friends since then. So we're talking about a week that gets blown up out of proportion and seems to define an era. But she was letting the character go. She was letting the project go. She was under a lot of pressure. The film hadn't made its money yet, right?
But
So it
I mean,
wasn't-
there's like
She hadn't
crew.
got nominated yet. The
This guy
film
keeps
hadn't been a
coming
big
at him.
success.
Wait, but crew's worn shirts before that you either shoot it my way or do another movie. You can't scare me. I
Oh, I
work
got
for
a
Jim
million
Cameron.
of those. I got a million of those.
I mean, but that was from that kind of era, right?
It's all good, clean fun right up until the moment that's the only thing people remember.
Your interpretation of it is that's been kind of characterized in a way that's what people remember.
Caricaturized I think is a better way to put it. Michael Biehn would not have worked with me on 3 films if he thought I was a complete dick, right? I had these long-standing friendships, Bill Paxton, Michael, others, Sigourney, people that knew me, respected me, and that wouldn't have happened, And by the way, crews came back as well, because they knew they were going to be, in the early days, it was, okay, I'm going to go work on a Jim Cameron movie. I know that I'm going to be challenged to do the best work I've ever done in my life. And so they grumble and groan, and then they come out of it with this insane sense of pride that they actually accomplished something.
To what extent was it a visit to Ron Howard's set that it had an
wasn't
impact on you?
No, when I was the CEO of Digital Domain, he came over to talk to the folks that in my outfit that were working on Apollo 13. He came over to tell everybody what a great job they were doing, and I watched him just say to people, this stuff is amazing. You guys are great, and I thought, well, I probably should have done that a few times, over the years. It's like an attaboy gets you much farther than the crack of a whip.
You mentioned the.
You want me to-
Okay. Yeah. One of the things that I don't even think Jim there is being. I believe Jim at the Jim was not somebody that was. Not able to say attaboy, good job, love that take, you nailed it, Michael, let's move on. Like, that's, the idea that he was just one way.
I will say it did sound like he was talking more about the crew than the actors in that moment. So I don't know. I felt like in that what he was just saying. He was he was
differentiating.
He was differentiating not from the actors, but from the crew, the camera people, the lighting, that sort of thing. It felt like that's what he was referring to there, which would be different than.
Well, the thing about it, and I'm not sure why Jim has always. People seem to have like Jim says I didn't play the game. I don't think Jim ever played the game, and it just seems like Hollywood's always had it out for him. They're always waiting for him to fucking fall off his pedestal, and he hasn't. And they're always looking for ways to. It seems to me for the last 30 years that's been who Jim is, and I'm not sure why they do that. And this goes back to. When he won the Academy, I don't know if we've said this before on the podcast, but when he won the Academy Award for
Titanic.
Yeah,
he made the quote.
Yeah, I'm king of the world. Which is something that Leonardo's character says in the movie, and he reaches up and he says, "I'm king of the world," and he was ridiculed and or mocked or whatever you want to call it,
Yeah,
like bad
he
boy,
was.
like that
Scorned,
was
yeah.
scorned for saying that. And here's a young guy, in his early mid-30s or whatever, and he just won a bunch of Academy Awards. And what was wrong
For
with that?
the highest grossing movie of all time.
And was the highest grossing movie for 20 years after that. What was wrong with that, Jim? What possibly?
Well, and especially because it was a line from the movie.
Yeah.
I didn't see anything wrong with it. I thought it was funny. I thought it was funny and apt.
Well, I'll tell another story, and if I just told this last, some of when I'm doing the podcast, I can't tell when I've been talking to you on the phone, Jim, when I've been talking to you, Caleb,
When it was in the
what I
podcast,
said in the
yeah.
podcast or whatever. But the day when I was working on the Terminator, that I thought Jim was a little, that.
I don't-
Okay,
I'm
so
not
I'm
remembering.
I'm working on the Terminator, Jim. You know this story, I'm sure, but I'm working on
Yeah.
the I'm working on the Terminator, and Jim is just Jim, and he comes in, he's a powerhouse, and like I've always said, do the best you can. If you're trying to do something that he doesn't want, you better get out of the way because he's going to do what he wants to do. And I never found him to be anything other than inspiring and me wanting to. But anyway, so I'm working on the Terminator, and he comes in one day, and he's Jim, but he's like not Jim per se. There's something that just felt a little bit off. And by this time I'd been around him in pre-production for 6 months, and because we were waiting for Arnold. And I knew
Yeah.
Jim very well, and we were spending
You
every
spent a
day
lot of time
together,
with him.
a lot of time with him. And so when we're doing the Terminator, I noticed one day that he just didn't seem, he was himself, but he wasn't quite himself. And early in the day, I said, "Hey, Jim, what's going on? You all right?" And he was like, "Oh, yeah, Michael, I'm good. And I knew Jim well enough to know that he just wasn't himself. He was still working, he was still doing his thing or whatever, but he just wasn't himself. So later on in the afternoon, I said to him, "Well, I just wanted to check in again with you. Are you sure you're okay?" And he said, "Well, Michael, I'll tell you, something happened yesterday, and I'm just just kind of processing it." And I said, "Well, what was it?" And it turned out he had wrote the second Stallone movie, Rambo, the
Yeah.
second one. And
Yeah.
I think that who's the star of that?
Stallone.
Stallone. Yeah, I think Stallone basically had kind of rewritten it. But one of the
Yeah.
scenes Jim had written had a guy that was like up on a cliff, and he was, like on the side of a mountain or something like that. It might have been Stallone's character, or I don't know what it was, but he was on the side of the mountain. And the stuntman fell and got killed. And Jim was sort of processing the fact that he had written a scene that ended up with someone dying because he had written the scene. And of course, and I said to him at the time, like, "Well, Jim, what's, like,
How can
that?"
you blame yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he knew that. I mean, he knew that.
Yeah.
Of course, because he's smart enough and
Yeah.
to know that.
It's one thing to know that on an intellectual level, but still, it's gotta. And I can see how it would register. If I'd written, "Hey, instead of a cliff, it's on a river," would that guy be alive?
You can. We're at about an hour and 33 on this podcast, and this is usually about the time that I stop. I don't like to. I don't. I could sit here and talk all day, but it would just. I think it would get An hour and 33 seems like quite a bit. That's a long movie for me, especially if I don't understand it. Like, but I did
Keeps
want
jumping from topic to topic. Yeah, no
yeah,
focus.
I
on
did
that
want
one.
to mention that I really love the viewers of the shows and the show writing in, and so I I I just wanted. I feel like, you know, sometimes we get 10,000 viewers. Sometimes we had Michael Rooker on. He gets 10,000. Then you do small cuts and stuff. And I just feel that even though it's a very small little platform here, that I would be remiss if I didn't mention what's going on in Indianapolis right now.
Minneapolis, did you
I'm
say?
sorry, Minneapolis, and
Yeah.
we're it's Monday morning. This will come out Tuesday, and it feels to me. Jennifer's been talking to me for the last year. You know, the world's falling apart, and this is falling apart. And I'm like, go back to the '60s. You know,
Chicken
They're-
Little. Yeah.
you know, but you know, it just seems to me with ICE, and I asked you, Jim, about when in history has the military ever, or any group of people, ever worn face coverings so you couldn't tell who they were when they were, you know, executing law enforcement.
Yeah, you said, when did law enforcement ever wear masks?
And you said, well, not
When they
law
were-
enforcement, but the
Well,
only.
yeah.
I said the Ku Klux Klan is the
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
group of people that I can remember that the Nazis didn't wear masks. What-
Even they didn't wear masks.
And what's going on with the killing of this nurse? And I thought the earlier killing was like a bad shooting, and I don't know what's going on. I don't know how you rein it in at this point. I'm not there. I'm not in Minnesota. I'm not when you get 10,000 people that are marching in weather where it's 10 below zero, you know that city is just hurting. And I think there are people that are very, very frightened there. And it just doesn't feel like America all of a sudden. Do you have any comments about that, Jim? I just wanted to kind of, I felt it was like, for me not to address it is just,
Yeah,
I
you
felt like
can't ignore it.
this
You
is
can't
something I
ignore it.
need to
It's-
address. And if things continue to go crazy, I don't want to sit here around here, if anybody still wants to listen and talk about like, oh, who, you know, like,
Yeah.
who's like, you know, who's going to win the Academy Award this year when all this fucking shit is happening and people are dying and being murdered in the streets by masks, government officials. People are being picked up. I read about a Marine the other day who was overseas. He's overseas. I think he was a Marine. He was in the military. He was overseas, and he'd been married for like 13 years or something, had 2 kids, like 7 and 8, and they came and grabbed his wife and fucking took her and, you know, sent her to Ecuador.
Disappeared her.
Disappeared her. And then,
Yeah.
Jim, you started talking about a very, very Costa Gravas movie. What was that movie called?
It was called Missing, and it was about the
With Jack
the-
Lemmon and Sissy
and
Spacek.
Sissy Spacek. Yeah.
And
directed by
talk to me a little bit
Costa-Gavras.
about that movie.
Well, that was a movie about unrest in Argentina back in the 70s when a military junta took over, and they just basically went out and rounded up people who were opposed to them, and they were never seen again. They were called the Disappeared. And one of those disappeared was an American, and his father and his wife went down to try to find him, and that was the basis of the movie Missing. It was Jack Lemmon and Sissy Spacek trying to find out what happened to their loved one, who got swallowed up by the military oppression of the Argentinian government, or it might have been Chile. I think it was Argentina though, but it was You
Good
know, it was
movie.
something that was, yeah, it was a very good movie, and it was something that was happening in South America.
See, the thing that I
Uh,
think that, Jim, is that when you start disappearing people without
Yeah,
due process, it seems to me it can get very slippery very quickly into
real quick, real quick.
disappearing people that are just sort of anti-government. And right, I mean,
Yep,
don't
yep.
don't you think that it's
Might have
small?
posted something, you know, somewhere that
You
offended somebody.
That's happening, I think, over in yeah. I think it's that. Well, not the disappearing part, but yeah. So anyway, I just felt like I needed to say something. Jim, I was talking to you a little bit about this last night. You mentioned
It was in
the,
Chile. Missing takes place in Chile. It wasn't Argentina. It was Chile.
but you mentioned something last night about the Constitution and the First Amendment, the Second Amendment. Can you just kind of describe?
Well, I saw an interesting commentary about the ICE tactics, especially the ones being used in Minnesota, but ICE tactics generally. How many provisions of the Bill of Rights are possibly being violated? Number one, the right to peaceably assemble for redress of grievances.
And the head of the immigration group, the guy that's kind of like working with the other one, basically when they asked him about it, said, "Well, when you demonstrate, shit can happen, right?"
Yeah, basically,
And
said
who
you
said
shouldn't
that?
bring. That was a Creek named Dan Barbino, who is, I guess, head of Border Patrol. And he's the one who runs around with the black strap, the little, you know, kind of Nazi uniform, and the great coat, and just this morning was giving a press conference saying if you bring a gun to a protest, you're asking for trouble. Of course, nobody told any of the January 6th rioters about that
Well,
problem. You know, don't bring your
forget
guns.
about
But
January 6th. He's
but
living in a state where a right to carry. I mean, all
absolutely.
right,
So they're possibly violating the First Amendment by shooting people who show up just to observe what ICE is doing, which is perfectly legal and a First Amendment right. Second Amendment rights, they see a gun on this guy, so they shoot him. Even after they've taken the gun away from him, they go ahead and shoot him,
yep.
and then tell people don't carry guns anymore, even though you supposedly have a constitutional right to do that. They're violating the Fourth Amendment in the way they round up people, and now they're claiming, ICE is claiming, they have the authority to burst into somebody's house without a judicial warrant, without getting a warrant from a judge. They can do it with what they call administrative warrants issued by their own agency, which is in court right now being contested and probably won't be allowed to happen. They're violating the Fifth Amendment by not giving people due process, a chance after they arrest them to go into court and say, hey, I didn't do the thing they're accusing me of, or hey, I'm doing something else that shouldn't subject me to this to being hauled off to Louisiana and never heard from again, or being sent to the Sudan, for Christ's sake, a country I've never been to in my life. That's the kind of stuff ICE is doing that violates and violating their Sixth Amendment rights to counsel,
Yes.
and their Ninth Amendment rights, which basically says people have rights that we haven't otherwise trampled on.
And and more than anything else, Jim, I and Kaylin, I just don't understand why the decision was made that everybody that was going to be involved with the ICE program were going to wear masks.
I don't even.
I mean, like
right from the start, other than to intimidate. I think it was to intimidate.
To
intimidate for their protection, so that they wouldn't be doxxed.
And for their protection,
so that they wouldn't be doxxed.
And so anyway, I just think that maybe I just said this, but Jennifer's been saying for a while, oh my God, things are just going crazy, and I'm like, well, things will like kind of find their way back together, and what's happening? And I'm not there. I'm not living in Minnesota or. I'm not in Minneapolis. I'm here. They're marching in the streets in 20-degree below weather or 10 degree below weather by the tens of thousands. And anyway, I just think
a year ago, there were 80 ICE agents in Minneapolis doing regular ICE business. Now there are 3,000. There are more ICE agents by far than there are cops in Minneapolis or in St. Paul or in the surrounding jurisdictions.
And do you know anything about the hiring process, Jim? And like these aren't ICE agents who have been working there for 20 years, are they?
No, I think the guy who shot the woman had been working for ICE for a couple of years. I don't know. We don't know anything about the people responsible for shooting this nurse. I think they're starting to use Border Patrol. There's a difference between ICE and Border Patrol, and the Border Patrol guys are trained a little differently from ICE. They operate mainly close to the border, and so they do run into cartels. They do run into armed groups. So their training is more hands-on, more combative. And now they're bringing Border Patrol into the cities where they really don't belong. They belong on the borders. They belong near the borders. They don't really belong in the cities. So you're bringing people who are trained in combat into cities to do whatever the hell they're doing. God only knows, to round up people who look a little suspicious, or maybe speak with an accent.
Yeah, I don't want to.
You can get into the weeds too much.
I don't want to get into the weeds. And
I think what we're seeing even today is a starting to pull back. I think even the White House is realizing this is really getting out of hand. Apparently, Trump made a call to Tim Walz, the governor, today to try to make a few steps toward making amends. How he's going to accomplish that, I'm not sure. He's sending his border czar, Tom Homan, to Minnesota to try to smooth things up. Now, Tom Homan is the guy, of course, who was supposedly caught on.
I know.
Tape,
we don't need to go there, Jim. We don't.
Well, we might, but
go ahead. I mean, yeah.
He's apparently the guy who took the $50,000
bribe
money in a fast food package. But he's going there to try to. I think what they realize is the polling on this is disastrous, and it's not going over very well. And now you have Republicans in Congress telling the White House, hey, you got to do something because we're going to get creamed in the midterms unless we can change this narrative pretty quickly. So this is killing us.
Yeah. So what I want to say is that Kaylin and myself and Jim all have feelings when it comes to our country, politics, where we lean, and we've never wanted to bring any of that into the show. There's too many other podcasts that you can go to and listen to people yelling on both sides. And for me, I don't want that to ever happen with this show. And I want, if you do have a comment about this, please make a comment that doesn't disparage anybody else. Anybody else's comment.
It's a raw subject, and I think it needs a little respect.
Yes.
I think we all need to treat each other, even people who disagree with us, with a little bit of decency and respect.
Yes, and I think that if we could, and again, I mean, I sound like a broken record of.
I think what really matters is that the truth needs to emerge, just the truth, unvarnished. If that guy did go there intending to shoot people, then that should come out, but it should be the truth.
Yeah, but I'm more concerned about even bringing this up because I don't want somebody to comment and say, hey, yeah, I kind of agree with you. And then somebody else to go, well, fuck you. And then somebody else.
Blah.
Yes, because that's kind of where we're at. And I know negative clicks are good clicks, and but I don't want them.
Engagement.
Any kind, that's what my 10-year-old son tells me. Yeah, go negative, Dad, go negative. You'll get all sorts of.
Your 10-year-old is telling you that?
Yes, he is. He explains a lot of.
Go to the dark side.
Yeah. He explains a lot of things to me, Jim. So
I'm sure he does. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to leave that alone, and I will leave it alone. I'd rather talk about Charlie Sheen. I'd rather talk talk
sure,
about what's
for
the name
sure.
of the director
Death-
we're trying so hard to get
John
on.
Patton Ford or
John
Death
Patton
by
Ford.
Lightning.
I want
or-
to talk
yeah.
about movies and continue to talk about movies, but I felt just because I do have this small platform, and I appreciate so much everybody that has followed us for 2 years, almost 2 years now, a year and a half close.
It's 2
And
years, pretty close. It was right after the Super Bowl, I think, that we did our first show, wasn't it?
Yeah,
we've only been releasing them for about a year and a half, though.
Is that right?
only been releasing
Okay.
them,
Oh,
for
that's
a year
right.
and a
Yeah,
half.
yeah.
But and I'm really having a good time. And I know Kaylin and Jim and I talk like this all the time anyway. And I know Kaylin's having a good time with it. And it gives me a chance to spend time with Kaylin. So I don't want to throw whatever into the engine, sand into the, I don't want to be political, but this is just something that is so obvious to me that I feel like I would be
You can't really ignore it.
Right,
Something has to be
right.
said.
Um,
Attention has to be paid, as
Right.
Willie Loman says.
So anyway,
Attention
we
must
got
be paid.
Charlie Sheen coming up. Our son won't tell us when he's coming up because he's afraid
juju.
bad
Guard-
juju, afraid of
Yeah,
voodoo
okay.
or
Yeah.
We're gonna try to get this other fellow on. I think that now that we've had Jim Cameron on, that we've had Adam on. I think that we'll start getting more and more guests, and eventually maybe get to a point where guests maybe are coming to us when they have something to release. What I'm trying to do, just so the people that are listening know what I'm trying to do, is I'm looking ahead. I'm looking a month ahead at all the movies, and the ones that interest me, like
How to Make a Killing.
How to Make a Killing. I'm reaching out to. I reached. Kaylin reached out to Topher, and we didn't hear back from Topher. I don't think Ed Harris would be. Ed Harris is not the type of person that's going to come on and do something. I know Ed well enough to know that he's not going to do something like that. But I'd work with both. Of them.
I don't see Ed Harris on podcasts.
on nothing. He never does anything. The last time he did something, I'm not sure what movie it was, but he was on a panel, and I think I think the movie had something to do with violence. And I think that Ed Harris went like, they asked him a question, he says, "No, it's not about that. It's about this." And he starts like beating the fucking the table, like in a violent way, which is, I think he was trying to talk about what the movie was about, and everybody just kind of went, "Whoa, you okay? All right, well, that's the end of that." Promotion.
You got a clip here. You want to watch?
You have a clip?
I don't know. I haven't watched ahead of time, but let's just take a look.
Let's see if this Ed Harris meltdown. Okay.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the press conference for A History of Violence. And I will immediately introduce.
Yeah. So
the people
okay,
who
it's
are
just
here
he
at
was
the
trying to make
panel.
a point.
Sitting
that's
next to me, actor and director, Mr. Ed Harris.
I would go forward until the point where, otherwise,
You wanted to add anything?
is it happen this quickly?
It might be edited or something. I don't know. But
How long is this?
I'd like to add that. No, because what is that? What is that? No? What is that? What is it? What is it? What is violence? What is it? That's what the movie's about.
Ladies and gentlemen, on this note,
Everybody starts
thank you very much
getting
for
up. Oh, thank you.
That's what the movie's about.
Yeah, I'm not sure he's going to come on our podcast. You didn't see that, Jim, but you gotta pull that up because that's
I will.
That's absolutely fabulous. So anyway, we're close to 2 hours now. I've gotten the thing off my back. I think we're going to have some good guests this year. I
we
know
will.
we're going to have Charlie. Just don't know exactly the date. I'll know next time I come on. I will talk to Jennifer, and I'll get the date, and I'll say it. And I'm not worried about. Thing about Charlie is that he is solid. You know, when he tells you he's going to do something, you know, he's going to do it. And if you look at his career, you can't be a, you know, drug addict, like a alcoholic, you know, using guy and make all those movies. You know, they're 12-hour days, 5 days a week, and you just can't do that. And
Well, how long was he on that series?
well, he was on the series for a number of years, and of
7,
course,
8 years, something like that.
yeah, and that's, you know, where he eventually ended up melting down. But he had a long, huge career before that series. And anyway, my point is that, you know, I want to talk to him about his movies. I know there's all this other stuff out there, but I want to talk to him about his father, his movies, his brother, Emilio Estevez, who's a director, growing up with Sean Penn and Sean Penn's brother, the one who passed away.
Chris
Penn. And Chris Penn, you could bring up Chris Penn. He was a great actor. And
he was, he has a fun role in Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah, he was.
What's his name? Good Guy Charlie or something? Good Guy.
Yeah.
Nice Guy Eddie. Yeah.
He was in some really good stuff. He was a really good actor, and he. True Romance.
Yeah.
Anyway, he sounds like he was Charlie's best friend growing up.
Footloose. I think he was in Footloose.
Was he in
too.
Footloose too? Yeah, I think
Footloose.
you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
All the Right Moves. That sounds like something I've heard before. And he was obviously Sean's little brother. And there's a documentary. Is it the documentary that I asked you to watch, Jim, about Charlie, where Sean Penn is talking about Charlie? Is Sean Penn interviewed in that? I
don't believe he is. No.
Oh, okay. All right. So there's another documentary out there about the making of that. Are you sure? Oh, okay. That surprises me. Anyway, Sean Penn. Oh! It's the documentary that they put out the same time they put out his book.
He is.
Yeah. Sean Penn talks quite a bit about Charlie and. But anyway, Sean, I think Sean's 6 or 7 years older. He's younger than me, but he's older, and anyway, that should be a really fun interview. Can't wait for that, and we're out there, and I'm hoping this guy that I mentioned before, this producer, if he can't get approval from
Netflix.
No, not the. If you can't get the director that I.
How to Make a Killing.
Yeah, the director of How to Make a Killing. You know his name, Jim.
Yeah, John Patton Ford.
John Patton Ford. Yeah, if you can't get him, then he just seems like he's going to be a friend of the show.
Yeah,
and
good.
Maybe down the line he'll be able to get us some good guests. I'd love to get on some young people and kind of get their perspective on what the business is like. I mean, my life in this business is pretty well over, or close to being completely over. I don't want to, say that I'm done, but and maybe I'll
close
have
the door
a
to anything. No, but
no. But I'd love to get some younger, people on, and so I'm excited. I'm excited about the show, and I want to thank everybody that's started listening to us and has stayed with it and seemed to enjoy it. And I read almost every comment, and every once in a while, if somebody says something shitty about us, I'll sarcastically
reply back in.
Yeah, but I'm usually kind of sarcastic more than And some guy, this was a long time ago, some guy wrote, like, I couldn't fucking watch fucking 3 minutes of this shit, you know? And so I kind of wrote back, well, we don't really start getting good until about 10 minutes. You know,
we
so-
don't watch the first 10 minutes.
yeah. Anyway, yeah, go ahead. If you don't like us, go ahead. I guess according to my 10-year-old son, like bad people fighting, like bad comments. Yeah, thank you. Are good, really good. They're better than good comments, but please don't do that. But I just want everybody to know that, like, I you know, we get 95% of people that seem to appreciate the show, and I want you to know how much I appreciate the fact that you take time to kind of write in and hey, if you enjoy the show, tell some friends about it. As Kaylin always says, the more people that watch the show, the easier it will be to get people like Robert Rodriguez, who I'd love to have on, or Quentin Tarantino, or you know, people that I've worked with before that I already have a relationship with, but you know, usually don't do shows that are small and building. They do more established shows. So I just wanted to thank everybody for supporting us, and I want to thank you, Jim. Because I know, as I've said to you many times before, how much you're getting paid. And Kaylin, I love you, and I'm having a good time doing this. And let's all see if we can try to enjoy each other a little bit more than fight with each other. All right?
There we go.
All right. All right. So we'll see you next week, and thank you for listening and watching.
Someone dirtier than you are doing you.